we knew that Magnus Carlsen was one of a kind at chess before this World Championship match, but this World Championship match did indeed highlight that fact. And I was actually interested, how accurate did Magnus Carlsen actually play? How precise was he? How incredible were his moves? How good did he actually play in these 11 games? And so what I'm going to be doing is just collecting some data, if you will, from this tournament and just seeing how good he actually played. Now, the first thing that I'm going to find out is how many best moves did Magnus Carlsen played. With the chess.com engine, you can see what they classify to be the best move in a position. And what I'm going to do is the old-fashioned way with the calculator, simply add up all of the best moves that he played from all 11 games. Now, while I speed this up for you, try to take a guess and see how many best moves Magnus Carlsen played. Remember, some of the games were quite long, some of them were rather short, so try to just take a guess how many best moves did Magnus Carlsen play in this World Championship match. Okay, I crunched the numbers, and Magnus Carlsen in the 11 games played a total of, I don't know if you can see that well, 299 best moves. Now that, I think, is indeed quite impressive, and in case you're interested, the most best moves that he played was this game right here, which of course makes a lot of sense because this was the longest game in World Championship history, and in this one game, he played 69 best moves. Super impressive. Now, the next thing that I want to check is how accurate he was in these 11 games. Now, chess.com has a feature where they show you how accurate you were on a scale from 0 to 100, and what I'm going to do is add up all of the accuracies and then divide by 11 to find this average accuracy. So again, make your guess while I speed this up. And now I have gotten the number, and his accuracy apparently across these 11 games was, if you can see that, 96.7. So of course, another pretty spectacular result here. I mean, this accuracy is something that you can only dream for, to have that consistency for 11 straight games, especially when some of these games span for hours upon hours. And then the final thing that I want to do is just take a look at actually his most accurate game. So this was game number 3 from the tournament, and he played at a 99.3% accuracy. I made a full video covering this game. In case you're interested, I'll leave it down below, because here we're mostly going to skim through it. But if you want a more in-depth analysis, I'll leave the link to the video below. And this was actually his only inaccuracy, and it happened at such an early stage that I have no doubt in my mind that this was some sort of prep. So his only mistake was actually something he prepared to play. So even though the engine considers this to be an inaccuracy, clearly it's not that big of a deal, and it actually is supernatural. The bishop will tuck away on f8, maybe fianchetto, the rook gets a much better file, obviously, than on f8. So, I mean, this is super understandable, so I'm not even quite sure why the engine classified it as an inaccuracy, but ever since that one move, he actually played rather perfectly. In fact, he even sacrificed the pawn here with this move bishop c8. This pawn is quite difficult to defend. Queen d2 is a massive threat. You could try something like this, but this is indeed very passive. The queen's not doing anything other than defending the bishop. So Magnus, being the type of aggressive player he is, decided to go and actually sacrifice the pawn if white wanted it, and white can simply take the pawn here. There's not a great way to defend, but black gets great counterattacking and aggressive chances along this diagonal and along these open files that are soon going to open up. So Magnus offered this possibility, but white instead didn't go for the extra pawn, realizing that they're playing Magnus, and it's probably not a great pawn to take. And the game ended really right around here when the rooks traded off into a absolutely drawn endgame. Of course, a few more moves were played, but after the kings repeated, the game was decided as a draw. So 99.3% accuracy, a spectacular game. And even though, many people claim that Jan wasn't as difficult as some of the other opponents, and maybe Magnus had an easier time, this is evidence that he still played at an incredible accuracy and super precisely, and he was still playing at the same level that we know Magnus to play at. So hopefully you enjoyed this video. Now, if you had any doubts about Magnus's ability somehow, this hopefully put all of those doubts away. Subscribe if you're new around here, and I will see you next time. Peace out.